Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, delighted that Alan Ruff is alongside me as ever in our 10th year. Can't believe it. Ruffy there with the shorts. I've still got mine on. We're optimistic the sun might come back at some point. Alison McConnell is with us on this Monday, and of course every now and then we get a guest star in, and Baldrick has joined us as well to chat about football because he's got a new haircut, Ruffy. There is never a dull moment when Tom's on the show, is there?
You should get this, Ruffy.
No,
Skin fade, you should get one up the sides.
When you go to the hairdressers and he's cutting your hair and somebody shouts at him and he turns in.
Don't have his sideburns.
I don't know what's worse, the Bond villain haircut he came in with at the start when he first joined.
We need to find that and post it.
Oh,
we need to find it.
The Bond villain or this one here, which is absolutely...
The Bond villain wasn't meant to just get in and get my colour done, and she made a...
Back end it.
Aye.
Yeah.
And end up silver.
Well, this one's aggressive, Alison. It's the only way I can sum up that haircut. I mean, that's I'm scared to argue with him tonight. But there's lots to talk about. Of course, the Premier Sports Cup. We'll look at the draw shortly as well. But as far as the results were concerned, it all kicked off on Friday. Ruffy, you thought Rangers would absolutely thump them, and that's exactly how it turned out. 5-0. It was impressive.
Yeah, well, I'd witnessed it the week before. They were pretty poor at the back, really slack. Like most teams now, they all try to play for the back, you know, but if you've not got the players to play for the back, sharp teams will catch you out, and that's what happened. You know, their build-up was so slow, and Rangers were so sharp, and some of the goals they lost were really poor. But 5-0's 5-0.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they made changes, Alison. 8 changes Rangers made for the game, so a few players were trying to obviously attract the attention of Steven Gerrard. If I was talking about players that, we know have got quality. Scott Wright's goal was a cracker, but a lot of fans would be looking at Calvin Bassey. I mean, he put in 2 cross balls that were absolute peaches.
I think too, given the start to the season and recent results and performances, I think anyone who comes in and plays well and catches the eye is bound to put themselves in the running for a first team start. I think the result will go a long way just to restoring a wee bit of stability, a bit of confidence after the shaky results of the last few weeks. I think it was probably much needed and very welcome, just in terms of dissipating the noise that starts to build up around Rangers or Celtic whenever they go a couple of games where you're not winning. So I think, on that respect, I think they would have been pleased just to get back onto solid ground again. Yeah,
you're always at this point wondering who you're going to hold on to, who's going to leave. I think Rangers, with regards to Nikola Katic seems to be keen to stay and battle for his place. And I think the big suggestion was that maybe Rangers would put him out on loan somewhere.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of rumours he was going to go out on loan somewhere. I think Rangers are very well covered at the back, particularly centre-halves, and I think he's too good a player to be sitting in the stand, and he's come back for a serious injury. He needs to get out and play somewhere. So I think there'd be teams in the Scottish Premier League who would take him. Yeah. I mean, Hibs are looking for centre halves. Yeah. You know, Katic, somebody like that. I mean, if that would be available, but I think with Rangers go 3-0 up after 20 minutes and I've been there. You know, I thought this could be 8 or 9-0. Yeah. I think every Dunfermline fan and Peter Grant would have settled for 5-0 after being 3-0 down after half an hour. Rangers came out the blocks really, really quickly, and they've done that a lot under Steven Gerrard, and the game was put to bed after half an hour, so it was a really impressive Rangers performance. Yeah,
I like Scott Wright. Hadji, a couple of nice flicks, got himself a goal as well, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think we all know the boy Wright's got some kind of ability. He's got something different. You know, I think he needs a consistent run. Most of the teams he's been at, he hasn't had like 30 games or something a season, and it'd be interesting to see if he gets it. I don't think he will. No, with the Rangers strikers that are available, I think he'll be a bit player. But any time he comes in, as long as he does what he did at the weekend, then they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, positive for Rangers to get the result that they were looking for. I think that just stopped the rot after those defeats that they suffered and the exit out of the Champions League. So that's all positive on the pitch. Never too far away, Alison, I have to say, from a bit of controversy off it. And this time around, it's Charles Green. I think he was speaking to a podcast of Andy Gray and Richard Keys. And boy, he absolutely slaughtered the current regime. He didn't hold back, Charles Green. I mean, here's a look at some of the quotes that he actually put out there. What annoyed me was these Rangers fans, fanatic players who disappeared to get fat signing on fees because they had freedom of contract. You've got Alan McGregor and Stephen Davis. I would never have allowed them back in Glasgow if I was there, let alone the dressing room. The Sports Direct deal was fantastic, said Charles Green. Mike Ashley pays all the bills, buys all the kit, does all the merchandising and all the delivery. He takes off costs, and the balance we get is a split 51-49. I know when I left, Dave King went round to my investors and said, Charles has lied to you, he stole the money. And then he goes on to say, Duff and Phelps made an announcement that Bill Muller had bought Rangers for £5 million. We know the reasons that collapsed. The threats against his children and the threats by a vile element of Rangers. He walked away, so I stepped in. So a few hard-hitting comments there coming from Charles Green. The difficulty with this, Alison, is you could spend 24 hours on a show actually looking back on Rangers and only scratching the surface on the truth, because so many people have their own version of it.
Yeah, I don't know if you would know where to start with that, and I think even the quotes that you held up are just a flavour of what was discussed within the podcast. I think I would disagree with almost every point that's been raised and with everyone that's been in it, starting from the players who left. I don't think you could blame players who left given the circumstances that Rangers went in. I think it was decades, years upon years of mismanagement, of chronic mismanagement that took them to where they were. I don't think you can look at players and ask them to sacrifice points in their career to make up for the sins of what had gone before. I think that would be one of the first points. The other point there, the obvious point, the Sports Direct deal, to argue, I wouldn't have any business acumen. I'm happy for somebody to stand up and tell me that there's holes in my argument, but from what I could see as an observer, that there was nothing good about the Sports Direct deal that was entirely beneficial to Rangers, and the problems that they then had trying to reverse it and get out of it. I think, to be honest, he'll always be a voice because of the association with the club at that time, but I think everyone has an agenda that speaks about it, and I think that's what comes through when you hear the entirety of what he had to say.
Yeah, if anything, he's been vindicated by the assault on him as a person and his credibility. He had his day in court and he won his day.
Yep, and I think, I don't know what else you can say about that. He went to, he went through the legal channels, for it clearly felt as though he had a case to answer. But I think people will draw their own conclusions in various aspects of that time around the club. Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of those voices that every now and then comes up to try and put their side of the story. There are many others who would obviously add fuel to the fire, but I think Rangers as a club just want to move on now and concentrate on their ambitions on the park as well. Of course, thanks to everyone for giving us their view on it as well, but unfortunately we don't have 24 hours time to spend on it, because believe me, if my memory serves me correct, Ruffy, I was ready for blowing my brains out when Rangers were heading for administration and then liquidation, because I was on a very high profile radio phone and it just became poison and toxic, and at the end of it Rangers suffered the ultimate catastrophe with the way the whole thing was handled, from David Murray over to Craig White, and it was one of those situations where you never want to be in it.
Well, if you were going to blow your brains out, I would love to know how Ali McCoy's felt, because that was what he was put through at that time. It had nothing to do with football. You know, he was there to look after the football club, but all he got was what was happening behind the scenes, and he wasn't obviously privy to everything that was going on behind the scenes, and it must have been horrible every time he went to a press conference. Yeah,
well, I have to tell you, Ruffy, I think, and I know Ali, I think in that period, I think I must have 50, 60, 70 press conferences. I don't think he answered one question about the game. It was just relentless. He was like diffusing bombs every week.
Yeah, he was the face. He was the public face of something, and the focal point for us as journalists to go and try and get answers. But it was complex. It was complicated for us
Yeah.
You know, I think when you dissected all the vast amounts of information or tried...
It was complicated for us. I had to phone the guy from Price Waterhouse every week. I was on a hotline to him. I actually thought about, I might invite him to one of my birthday parties, Ruffy. It was just constantly, and I've never met so many ex-footballers who suddenly turned accountants, Alison. Anyway, I don't want to open old wounds. That was Charles Green. He had his say yesterday, and hey, it's always good copy. But Rangers on the field, 5-0 have bounced back against Dunfermline. What about Celtic? Well, yesterday, certainly for 45 minutes, Tam, Celtic looked the real deal going forward, but again, I still think those old wounds and those old nightmares at the back end are still there.
I think they've got to tighten up at the back. Listen, there's no doubt about it. Celtic look irresistible going forward. They look as if they can score at will. You know, they're going through, they're creating barrel loads of chances. But your strikers and your forward players are not going to be on it every single week. You can't expect them to score 3, 4, 5 every week. There's going to be times where they're having an off day, you know, your strikers or your wide men, it's not quite happening, and you've got to win 1-0 or 2-1. You've got to be tight at the back, and you know, in terms of Celtic, I think going forward the fans must be so impressed with the way they're playing compared to last season. But at the back, again, Hearts second half, you know, created a few chances. Starfelt thought he had a poor game.
Yeah.
Thought he had a poor game.
Sucked in with the boys.
I've not been that impressed with him. You know, you've got to give him an opportunity to settle into Scottish football, but he's not looked that great so far. And as you said, yep, dives into boys, takes a touch, gives the penalty away, and the boy gets across him for the second goal. So a wee bit concerning for him. He's got to be better. So, but going forward, Celtic and supporters must be absolutely delighted with the football they're playing.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou mentioned that after the game, that first half was the best they've played since he got there.
Yeah, I thought the first sort of hour we were really good. Probably the best football we've played so far this year. Totally dominated. The only sort of thing we didn't take advantage of some unbelievable opportunities to put the game to bed. But football's outstanding. The intent was outstanding. You know, we really never took our foot off the pedal. And credit to the players in the middle of a heavy schedule that, you know, they were able to push that far in.
I'll tell you one thing, Ruffy, the boy Kyogo, I tipped him last week to score 20 goals, and I think I might be underestimating it. His movement is absolutely incredible. He likes a wee tackle as well. He puts himself about.
Yeah, and he's got that pace that we talked about, that when you've got that wee half yard or yard quicker than defenders, you know, and you're thinking ahead of them as well. He's a handful, you're right, you know, and I think the Celtic fans are just waiting to see if another one comes in, you know, and who it's going to be. But that was the first time I'd seen Edward scoring a goal and smiling.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened there. You know, he was over the moon by his goal. He just doesn't give you any expression at all. So,
but the goal itself was top draw.
Oh, it was. And you have to say, 3-2 flat Hearts. You know, if you hadn't seen the 90 minutes of that game, you would go 3-2. That was a bit close, was it? No,
yeah.
No way. If you'd have been in that Hearts dressing room at half time and you were 5 down, you wouldn't have been complaining.
Yeah, and it's nice also. I love football and the logic of it as well. It's nice for some of the fans to give Craig Gordon a round of applause when he came on, and then booed him mercilessly all the way through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We used to like you, so here's a round of applause, but here's the here and now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, if it hadn't been for Craig Gordon, I think it would have been probably 4 or 5 by the break. Furuhashi looks a real find. I think he looks extraordinary. I think he might have 20 goals by Christmas.
Yeah.
On current evidence, he looks as though he's settled very quickly, which is commendable when you think that you're walking into an entirely new culture. It's, you know, a new language, new culture, having to settle entirely. It just looks seamless. He looks as though he's gelled immediately. I think from middle to front, Celtic look exceptional. They look very good. They look as though there's always goals there, but there is still a question mark, I think, hanging over the back line. I think Christopher Julian coming back will obviously help that, but I would still think that they would need at least one other.
Yeah, talking about Liam Scales from Shamrock Rovers, but I don't know about you, but I actually looked and I thought to myself, well, if they're going to sign defenders for the back line and they're going to hope to get some kind of group stage European football, I think they need a little higher calibre. No disrespect to the boy Scales, but they need, you know, someone somewhere who's got a bit of experience about him. I think they need somebody powerful and tall.
Yeah, I think he's a left-sided defender, but like you, I think you maybe need someone just who has a bit of experience of top level football, a bit of experience of exposure to European football, and just the demands that go with being at a club like Celtic, and how it can maybe catch your breath a bit if you're not used to it. I think if you're walking into that at first, it could take you a bit of time to acclimatise. I think if you're bringing in someone who comes from a big club and who has a bit of background to that, then you would like to think that they would settle a bit quicker. I know you can look at Shane Duffy and maybe make an argument that it doesn't always work that way, that every signing is a gamble, but I think if you go for the experience of one of the top leagues, then 9 times out of 10 it should be to your benefit.
Yeah, and fair play. I did read over the weekend that Shane Duffy is indeed, I think he acknowledges he had a nightmare in Scotland, but he was back playing for Brighton and wants to put it all behind him. Sometimes, yourself, Tam, you can go to a club and things are not right. If they're not right off the park, your whole life can spiral out of control, and it affects your professionalism on the park.
Yeah, I think he had, first and foremost, I think he had a tough spell off the pitch. I think his father died, and I think that was obviously affecting him when he came up the road. He's away from his family and got off to if you get off to a bad start at any club, but I think particularly Celtic and Rangers. Yeah. If you get off to a bad start, you're judged immediately. After 3 or 4 games, no, he's a dud, and then the fans were getting on his back and whatever. So I'm glad to see him. He's recovered. He's back down at Brighton. Sometimes it doesn't work out at a club. You don't turn into a bad player overnight, and he's now playing in the Premiership down there. So he just had a bad spell up here, and hopefully he can put it behind him.
When you were smiling there at the start, was that you going through the 19 or so clubs, just trying to work out the ones?
There's a couple of bad spells.
Exactly, I could see the smile on your face. Nevertheless, it's AZ Alkmaar, which again I think will be a step up on Wednesday for Celtic to try and get through this final qualifier.
Yeah, I think this will be obviously their toughest test yet, and I think they can. I think obviously they've got to shore up at the back. You'd fancy Celtic to score goals. I think the Dutch team they'll be attacking as well. I don't think they'll be coming to sit in. So, it's a big game for Celtic. They need to get in that group stages. To get the money from that as well, and hopefully they can go and do it the same as other Scottish clubs. Yeah.
As for Hearts, this is what Robbie Neilson made of their performance over the 90 minutes.
It was a change of shape. We knew that Giannelli wasn't going to be fit for the start of the game. We knew that we'd maybe get 30-40 minutes in, put him at half time, and you see his pace changes the game. And it allowed us to get up the pitch. We've got Mackay Stevens in an area we can go and run. And then we started making subs to give us a bit more attacking threat. So, we're disappointed to lose the game, but the positives for us are that the second half we've shown that we can go toe to toe.
Second half they can go toe to toe with Celtic. Do you agree with that, Ali?
No, I think the result flattered them. I thought Celtic were well worth the win. I thought the margin of the win could have been wider had it not been for Craig Gordon, as we've discussed. But I do think there is a weakness and a frailty about Celtic defensively. I think anyone that goes and puts them under pressure or has the chance to go and put them under pressure will get their rewards. I think, but I think there was a clear chasm between the two teams at the weekend.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to looking at some of the goals from the Hibs Kilmarnock game, Ruffy, over the weekend, but something happened with Hibs TV, something I don't know, of the meter, you didn't put the 10 bob in, something drastic happened, and we just didn't get to see it.
No, that was shocking as well. Tom could talk us through it.
Yeah, did you, I mean, at the end of the day, when it goes off like that, do you kind of give them a discount on your fee, or do you just still say, no, I'm here?
I thought you can have a discount on your fee, Peter. So listen, it was just one of the things. It was perfect that the screen it worked great and told me a minute before the goal, and it was a good goal actually. Very unselfish play with Kevin Nisbet. He went through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and he could have scored himself, but he squared it to McGuinness, who was in slightly better position, and he tapped it in. But first half, I was really impressed with Kilmarnock. I thought they came with a game plan. They were very organised at the back. They had a threat up front. Robinson, the Scott Robinson from Livingston, they signed very good player for that level of the Championship. Burkey, as we know, still a good player. So they caused Hibs a lot of problems. Should have been ahead probably at half time, but I think second half Hibs got on top of them and ran out comfortable winners. But as I said, Hibs now, Christian Doidge is out until Christmas. Paul Hanlon's got supposedly a bad head injury. He burst it open against the first leg against Rijeka. And I don't know if it's stitches or something's happened, but he could be out for a wee while as well. So Hibs need a centre half and a strike, probably 2 strikers now.
Yeah, there, but for the grace of God, Tom, don't worry about these little clangers that can happen. You know, I felt great pain for Hibs TV because Ruffy and I had a deal for the commentary way back at the start of PLZ Soccer. We bought the rights for the commentary at the SPFL as well, and within 30 seconds of about to go on air on our first show, Ruffy kicked the entire comms out. and not only us, but everybody else in the row was off air as well. You can't put anything electrical near him.
It's so funny that wasn't it funny at the
I
time?
was just about to say. I can see it.
Yeah. No, we had another incident that I'm sure you'll remember. Was it Hibs? And it was a Hibs game, and the game was absolutely flowing back and forward, and I don't know what I did, but I kicked the cable out.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
and the game's going on, and I'm going, please don't score till we find out I get where this cable goes.
Oh, Ruffy, you and technology just don't go hand in hand. But yeah, listen, the Hibbies got the win in the end, and Jack Ross, I think, was very, very complimentary about Kyle McGuinness.
He's one of my boys because I gave him his debut and I'm fond of him, but I think he's got a huge career ahead of him. So we challenged him this pre-season to say, right, okay, you're a Hibs player now and you've got to prove you're a top Hibs player, and he's doing that at the moment. I think he's a terrific player. And I don't think it's just a rich vein of form. I think that's how he is as a player. The end product side is maybe the thing that you couldn't guarantee in terms of that number of goals, but his all-round performances have been excellent. Yeah,
Hibbies get a win. Dundee get a win as well. Ruffy, Lee Ashcroft. I watched it. It was an interesting game. I don't know what's happening with Muller at the moment. I thought they would struggle league. They're out of the cup as well.
I think it's because year on year they lose their best players, and it depends what kind of players they bring in, whether they bring in players that settle in right away, and that's not been the case this year. A lot of years it is the case, and it's interesting that the manager is now becoming under a wee bit of stick, you know, and he needs to get a win, like all managers do when they don't win games. But I think we all sat here with Charlie thinking, well, we're all hoping, but you didn't have them winning, did you?
I tipped Motherwell.
You tipped Motherwell.
Just to noise them up.
Yeah.
I wanted Dundee to win, but...
No, but it's good that they won, you know, because I think Dundee are a big club. See if Dundee got their act together, you'd have 10,000 at their stadium quite easily.
They did, but they almost went into liquidation and disappeared off the air. They had Caniggia, they had Caballero, they had Craig Burley. They were paying them fortunes, Ruffy. They couldn't afford it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of clubs were doing that then.
Yeah.
You know, it was just the way everybody thought they had to go, and as we all know, they all got into trouble financially, and a lot of them took good number of years to get themselves out of it.
Yeah, Graham Alexander has urged the fans to stick by him and the squad after what is a poor start.
It is a poor start, you know, because I mean, if we think back, was it a couple of years Motherwell were third, and they were up there, you know, they were doing particularly well with some of the players they had. So they just need to go on some kind of run. But I mean, I think it's a bit early to start calling for his head and all that, you know, because it's still early in the season. And he'll look at the fixture list as they all do, and there'll be teams coming up that he knows that they should beat. And as long as he beats them, then he'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll be speaking to Andrew Shiney to talk about what was an upset over the weekend. He'll be on shortly to give us his take on what happened with Aberdeen in that match against Wraith Rovers. Aberdeen out of the cup. One team who are still in it, Livingston, it was 1-1, and then eventually in penalties Livy managed just to scrape through, Ali.
I was surprised at that, to be honest. I quite fancied St Mirren to win that one. I was surprised, but I don't think there'll be much between them in the league this season either. I think it was fairly close, but I think Jim Goodwin will be disappointed not to have progressed, I think.
Yeah, David Martindale said his side lacked composure and needed to be more clinical. And again, Jim Goodwin, his reflection on it was he thought the result was harsh, but he was very critical of his side for not taking their chances.
Yeah, you're talking about pure starts. It's not been a great start for St Mirren, was it? And they were fancied by a lot of teams this season to be pushing into that top six.
Well,
and
I thought they would be.
Yeah, and it's not happened for them.
Yeah.
I don't think Brophy's been on form. Him and Main, you know, they need the guys to be scoring. McGrath, I think, has went off the boil a wee bit. He's not scored in a few games, so I just think that they're a team who are after a poor start, and I think, you know, if they don't get a win in the next 3 or 4 games, you know, you could maybe see Jim Goodwin come under a wee bit of pressure as well.
Yeah, I'm not so sure actually. I think they're into a long-term plan with him. I think they really like him there.
I think the biggest disappointment for him was the cup run they had last year.
Yeah.
You know, and the fans expect you to do it every year.
Once you set the bar, Ruffy.
And then now you're out. No, then the fans go, how are we not on this run again?
Yeah.
And then that's when the problems start.
You can always tell people who really put in a shift and know what it's like to work for a living, Ruffy. They head to Arbroath against St Johnstone. It's as simple as that. When you want to make sure that the mortgage is paid off early, you go up there. Was it a windy day? Is it ever not a windy day in Arbroath, Ali?
It's actually fairly pleasant, to be honest. But yeah, just the extra time and penalties just to make it worth my while.
You did that like a hole in the head, didn't you?
For it to go up. But yeah, it was actually very entertaining. I thought Arbroath were good value. I thought they worked their socks off and they were well worth it on the balance of it. At 2 each when it was going into penalties, you're thinking Arbroath could have won it. They had good chances. I think you could see St Johnstone just leggy from the Galatasaray games and an eye on this Thursday night, but Dick Campbell was good form after it. Just no silver lining from a big performance against the cup holders. He just came out and lacerated his players for missing 3 penalties in the shootout. St Johnstone had obviously brought on Xander at just a minute to go from extra time, and they brought on Xander Clark for the shootout, and then they two hit the outside of the post and one hit the cross. Sorry, one crossbar, one outside the post and one a mile over the bar. So he'd nothing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a long day.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know my memories of Arbroath, Ruffy? I think we were up at an Aberdeen game, you, me, and Gordon Smith, and Gordon told us let's stop off at Arbroath because there's a great chippy there. And I think the fish and chips that we had, do you remember it, Ruffy?
Mm-hmm.
I think the fish had lumbago.
Yeah, they're usually curled up at the ends. These were like starched ends. You just couldn't break them.
It was the worst fish and chips I've ever tasted, and I'm sure there are great fish and chip shops in Arbroath, but not the one Smudger had as
just when you said was it windy there in my previous life on radio. We would have had a radio show and we were talking about the wind up at Arbroath, and I jokingly, this wee punter was on and he was saying, how bad was the wind, how bad? I says, I tell you, I was up there with Partick Thistle once and the wind was horrendous, the waves were coming off, hitting the sea, and this big wave came and caught our winger and sucked him into the sea. And he went, you're kidding me on.
Oh dear. Anyway, I would love to have been. I don't know. There's some managers you would love to be a local reporter, because I can remember being at Radio Clyde and used to have to go when Dick was actually manager at Partick Thistle. Oh, my God, you could spend an hour in there just sitting having a cup of tea, never stop laughing, and then think, I've got to start this taped interview. It was so good. Anyway, in the end, St Johnstone get through, and Callum Davison still hasn't lost a domestic cup tie as a Saints manager, so well done to him. They're taking on Lask. This time around, I think a more realistic, chance for St Johnstone to extend their European football.
Yeah, I think so, but I think they're a decent side. I think they won 6 or 7-1 in the previous round, so Austrian teams are pretty strong, I think, in Europe. So I think it'll be a tough game, but would love to see St Johnstone, Aberdeen and Celtic Rangers all in the group stages and getting European football beyond Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed for that. Dundee United needed penalties, Ruffy, against Ayr United. Yeah,
it just shows you that the teams in the Championship can hold their own against the teams who we all think is going to be in the bottom 6. I think that's why the Championship is so strong. They've done it year on year. Anytime they've come up against a bottom Premier side and held their own. So I think they'll be disappointed the way that went, and them scoring late on and then obviously winning the penalties. Yep, I think Benjamin Siegrist, really the hero for them, saved twice in the penalty shootout. So they're into the last 8. The last game that we've saved the best till last, I think, because fair play to John McGlynn, Ali. He's a good coach, and I think maybe sometimes underestimated, maybe not the most fashionable manager. Some people have suggested he's worthy of a bigger job, but what he's doing at Raith Rovers, Charlie told us that Raith Rovers last season played the best football in that division. So, they managed to win against Aberdeen, and again,
it's against an Aberdeen side that have aspirations to win silverware.
And it was a fairly strong Aberdeen side. You know, and you think once you take the lead in the game, you'd expect, you know, you come out at the break and you think you see it out, just go and get the job done and see it out. I couldn't believe it when I was listening to it driving up actually on the radio and just couldn't believe it. And you're thinking it's that inconsistency, I think, that can upset your season. I think they've had a really strong start. I think they've been fairly impressive, but when you have a blip like that, it'll be interesting to see now just what the response to it is.
Yeah, here's Stephen Glass's take on the defeat.
Like I said, we were in control of the first half. We didn't start the second half particularly well. We allowed the atmosphere to become a cup-tie atmosphere. We allowed them to dictate the game, which we didn't in the first half. So I think, and then the goal happens pretty quick, and the reaction of ourselves to be a threat and dominate the game again wasn't really there. So that's probably the biggest disappointment in terms of the football side of it.
He made 7 changes, Tam, Stephen Glass, but they should still have been, you know, good enough to get past Wraith Rovers.
Yeah, I think the guys he brought in were first team players. It wasn't as if he brought in, you know, kids. He did a strong squad up at Aberdeen, and I think he'll be bitterly disappointed. I think, you know, for Aberdeen, for Hibs, for Hearts, that's your chance.
Yeah.
You know, your League Cup and your Scottish Cup, you're never going to win the league.
Well, we bummed. This is the problem with it. We've all bummed them up. We've all got super excited. I mean, the amount of people that were sending me texts saying the bubble has burst. You know.
No, I don't think so. I think they've got a huge game coming up on Thursday, and I think Stephen was looking towards that. I think if they can get by, they've got to travel to Azerbaijan as well, you know, so it's a very, very, very tough game. But if they can get through that, they've got European football, could be worth £2 million, £3 million. It's a huge game, and I just think he had one eye on that. Without being disrespectful to Wraith Rovers, I still think he put out a team capable of beating them, but never took their chances. Great goal for Jet in the first half, wonderful goal. I think if they get the second, if they go 2-0 up, I think they'll go and win the game, but got to give Wraith Rovers massive credit. I was listening to radio and well, going to Easter Road, and second half, by all accounts, Wraith Rovers were superb and totally deserved to win. Yeah,
if Aberdeen continue to you know, make a pig's ear of this, I hope you're not on just defending the indefensible with your mate as the manager. Honestly, I don't want him compromised, Ruffy. Well, if none of that, you've got to be balanced about it and leather them.
You want to give it from Aberdeen? We can't be slaughtering glass here. You want to give a goal for it, sir?
Make sure you phone your pals when they're not doing well as soon as they're doing. Oh, Bruni, how you doing, Steve?
Anyway, full marks to John McGlynn, and I love his attitude because John McGlynn says Wraith Rovers want some cup success.
I don't think our season's bad. You know, we're only 2 games in. Up until today, we had not lost a goal in the League Cup. We lost 1 goal in the League Cup for 5 games. That doesn't sound too bad to me, you know. We're in the quarter-finals since the first time since '94, Rob told me, so I'm delighted at that. The only unfortunate thing was that was when Wraith Rovers won it. So to try and, you know, equal that, if that's the right word or not, puts enormous pressure on us, but we'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. We'll take the pressure. Brilliant from John McGlynn. Hat on, just tongue in cheek there. But I think, you know, he's got a group of players that can cause teams a few problems.
And I think once you get to this stage, you know, you fancy your chances against anyone. You know, and despite what he's saying, they're the team that have got a free pass. Almost no one anticipates or expects anything of them. I think it helps if you're, you know, going into that game. Don't think they'll progress much further now, but it's a chance to go and bank a wee bit of money, and it's a reward for getting as far as what they have.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at them, Ruffy. They'll be absolutely delighted with the draw against Celtic. You know, great chance to go there. It's a free hit.
Yeah, it's 100,000 in the bank, quite easily.
There you go, eh? It's always about the money we use, isn't it? Honestly. Just out of curiosity, Ruffy, if you win the lottery, how much should I expect? Anything?
Much am I winning?
You're winning 161 million. How much am I getting?
Oh, okay, 5 or 10 anyway.
Yeah.
10? What am I going to do with 150 million?
Yeah,
absolutely. It's just my pals.
Heated seats in the Thistle director's box.
Steady now, steady.
It'll be, no, I would put, I mean, we've had this discussion before, I put lots of money into Thistle.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, I put 20 million or something.
What, enough to give them the chance to win the league?
Yeah, a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, to give the fans something that they'd love to see.
Forever and a day,
You've got 150 million, what are you going to do with it?
Who would you buy?
Oh, I don't know. Messi's away, so he's out of the equation.
Can you imagine him running out of Farrell? Oh, there you go. Brilliant. I just thought I'd ask you that, Ruffy. But here's a look at the quarter-final draw. This is the way it's all shaped up after the results over the weekend. Who do you think is going to win it? Give us your thoughts. Celtic against Raith Rovers, Rangers against Livingston, Dundee United, Hibs, Dundee, St Johnstone. Listen, we talk about the pressures of it all. St Johnstone are the cup holders, so obviously Callum Davison wants to try.
So glad that they avoided Hibs.
Yeah, well, I was just
we had them in toast last year.
He wants to get back to the final as well, which you couldn't rule it out with St Johnstone. But where's the greater pressure here, Ali? Is it Ange Postecoglou or is it Steven Gerrard?
I think they're both under significant amounts of pressure. I think the difference is that Steven Gerrard probably has some credit in the bank now. He's won a title. He got a bit of time to go and win that title. He's still to deliver a cup, which I think people are looking towards this season. But I think if you're Ange Postecoglou, you came in as a very high-profile second choice for that job. I think immediately you're on the back foot and trying to win people over. I think he's done that. I think the style of football that he's delivered has got people on side fairly quickly. But the bottom line for either of those two managers is that you'll be measured only in success and only by what you deliver in terms of trophies. I'm not sure you can separate it. I think Steven Gerrard just might have a bit more time because of what he's already done, and I think you could point to the European progression that was made in previous campaigns too. Although they didn't win a title, I think the Europa League performances were sufficient for people to see what he was working towards and the team that he was building. But I think both managers are under tremendous pressure, and I think that's the case for whoever's in that job.
Yeah, I think we're now at the stage, we're at the same stage that England have been in for a wee while. I think you can keep your 2 cups as long as you win the league and you go straight into the Champions League groups.
This season.
Yeah,
that's what England do. They just want to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
They're no bothering about the English Cup and whatever the other cup is, and I think that is the situation in Scotland now. You know, win the league. If you don't win the 2 cups, not really bothering.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it, Ruffy. I mean, I'm sure Steven Gerrard himself will look and say, well, the way this whole thing pans out, the first bit of silverware is, you know, before the turn of the year, if you've got that cup in, there's a huge lift as you head into the new year, a huge surge to go towards the league as well, and then of course the Scottish Cup's the icing on the cake at the end of it.
Yeah, as you say, the League Cup comes around fast. You know, if you can put that in the cabinet, Celtic or Rangers or any other teams, you know, but particularly for Rangers, obviously never won a cup competition here. I think that would give them a massive boost. But you know, we've seen last season, you know, that if you're in there, you've got a chance with St Johnstone last year to win the 2 cups. Every club in there, the Raith Rovers have got a big task, but I think every other club in there, listen, if you'll fancy a chance, you're in the last 8 and anything can happen. Who would have thought St Johnstone would have won 2 cups last season? So yeah, it's all to play for.
Well, there's the draw. There's 4 to pick from. So I'll start you off. I'll go Celtic, Rangers, Hibs and St Johnstone.
Yeah, but I don't think I disagree with you. I think that I said to you, I'm so glad that Hibs avoided St Johnstone. Yeah. St Johnstone had the absolute bogey on them last year. So I'd agree with you. I think Celtic, Rangers, Hibs and St Johnstone.
Yeah. Ali, you going to differ?
I think I'd probably go with the same. And to reference back to your point about the League Cup and pressure, I think there's more pressure on if they're facing one another. If you're talking about a Celtic Rangers game in the semi-final or in the final, I think that adds a bit of sway to it. I think it adds a bit of pressure because there's a whole level of one-upmanship there, and then you know what it lays in terms of the foundations for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, Ruffy, do you agree? Have you got any different?
A personal view, I would like to see Charlie in the semis.
Yeah.
That's a personal thing, nothing to do with football. You know,
quite a softie, aren't you, Ruffy? You like that sort of thing?
just like to see our pals getting a wee bit of success.
Oh, is he your pal now, eh? There you go.
What are you playing Glen Eagles, John?
Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking. There's got to be an angle there, but nevertheless, quarter-finals between September 21st and 23rd, semi-finals 21st, 22nd of November, and of course, as we mentioned, December 19th is the final. It would be a humdinger if it was Celtic Rangers December 19th, just to get everybody in the festive period.
Peace and goodwill.
Yeah, peace and goodwill after the 19th. But nevertheless, that's how it all looks. Thanks to so many people putting their and music is the answer on YouTube says, I agree with Ruffy, just win the league this season. That's really I think the essence of what the Rangers fans will be looking at as well, just winning the league again, back-to-back league titles.
You're talking, once you're straight in there, you're talking more than 40 million. You know, you're talking about all the games you've got against high-quality teams, and that will boost it up as well. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's nice to win 2 cups, but I mean, at the end of it, where would you rather be, Champions League or 2 cups?
Yeah. Owen McGrandle says the draw is opening up for St Johnstone for the League Cup. A wee outside bet on that. If St Johnstone were to win, if they won the League Cup this year again, Tam, they'd give him the freedom of the city. I mean, he could just pick his next move.
Honestly, I said to Karen Davison last season, she just chucked it. I'd have retired from management after 2 trophies. Yeah. Can't get any better.
Yeah, absolutely. We were hoping to speak to Andrew Shiney just to get his thoughts. But unfortunately, he's been sobbing uncontrollably for 40 minutes in a darkened room, as many Aberdeen fans have been. He's finally come out. Andrew, what happened? What happened to the magnificent Dons that were going to bounce back and dominate under Stephen Glass? Tell us what happened.
We didn't turn up for the second half, simple as that. Played very well first half, but couldn't kill the game off. Got the 1 goal through Jet. But despite plenty of pressure, didn't put any shots on target. Jamie McDonald didn't have a direct save to make in the whole game.
Wow.
And then second half, sold 2 cheap goals, free kick into the area, Varian got in there ahead of Jack Gerd, put it into the net. And then the second one was just a disaster for Jack Gerd. Saved by Joe Lewis, the ball breaks in the box, Gerd hesitates. Mario Zanata doesn't. It's in the back of the net, 2-1. Yeah. And then with 20 minutes to go, you still think Aberdeen can get back into it. But no, they didn't create a chance. As I say, didn't have a shot on target to trouble Jamie McDonald.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, the worst thing about this whole situation is suddenly it's Karabag and suddenly you've got injury problems.
Absolutely. Johnny Hayes carried off with his ankle in a boot, and Ryan Hedges off with the left leg, left thigh, heavily strapped up. So it doesn't look good. They're 2 very important players for Aberdeen, and it's just what you didn't need ahead of a 7-hour journey out to Karabag. So you're not wanting injured players being in the compression chamber that is an aircraft. So it's not looking good for Aberdeen, and the strength of the squad that we all thought was good is now going to be seriously tested.
Yeah, and the other question on this one is there a sniff, Andrew, that he might be able to try and get at least 1 new player in, somebody that could bolster the squad, maybe freshen it up to give him a lift?
I think it's very much 11th hour, isn't it, for the first leg? I'm not sure what the UEFA rules are. I think it's 48 hours before the tie is played that you have to have somebody registered. Well, it leaves them no time at all. And Matty Kennedy looks as though he's going out in loan. That may have to be put on hold, and Kennedy may be drafted in.
Yeah, I was thinking more about the fact that get somebody in to freshen it up for Sunday, never mind Karabag. I was thinking Sunday against Hearts. I mean, you need Hearts like a hole in the head for this one. It's at Tynecastle as well, Andrew.
Absolutely. Always a really, really difficult play to go to. But Karabag, to me, is the more important game, because this is the one that's going to make money for Aberdeen. If you get through to the group stages of the Europa League, you're guaranteed football in Europe right up to the beginning of December at the very least. If you get beyond the group stages, then it's much bigger money. It's not the Champions League riches, but compared to what Aberdeen have made of Europe in the past, it is not something to be sniffed at. But you're right, going to Hearts on Sunday is going to be a monumental task for them, because they will be tired. You're going to need your squad to be rotated once again. And we've seen in the last 2 Sundays against Livingston and against Wraith Rovers that questions can be asked as to whether that squad is strong enough.
Yeah, Andrew, thanks again for joining. There's no point in moving the camera around, Ruffy, because the rest of the room is completely wrecked. He's been firing chairs all over the place, taking down photographs of Peter Weir and McLeish, smashing them and everything. You know, that's what happens when you get. That's what happens when you get gummed. It doesn't go according to plan. You know,
These
even
photographs
glass
fell off
picture,
the wall.
sides ripped up. Brilliant, top man, Andrew. Obviously, we will get reaction from the managers and players, Carabag and of course Tynecastle. We'll speak to you next Monday. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, see you later, guys.
Top man, great to have Andrew with us, covering Aberdeen, keeping us right up to date with all things the Dons. Of course, we've covered the Premier Sports Cup. There'll be football, European football this week we've got to talk about. We'll be looking in depth at the games involving the Scottish sides. And of course the English Premier League started with all the fanfare, Ruffy.
Yep.
Of course they know how to gloss it up. And there's no doubt about the game of the weekend. I was really looking forward to Tottenham against Manchester City to see if Harry Kane would traipse out there in the Tottenham shirt, but it's just not happening. I still think he'll be away before the next game comes around.
Yeah, I think obviously it's a bad start for them, but certainly if you're a Spurs fan, you know, I don't think you would expect it to win that game. But I was just looking at their team, and a lot of experienced players there. He's bought well, you know. I mean, I know they're not big high profile players like the other teams have been buying, but he's certainly amassed a good squad. But for me, the West Ham result was the one for me at the weekend. Winning away from home was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a look at what happened down south in the English Premier League. All those games, Brentford really the highlight for me watching that game on Friday. I just decided to watch it for the atmosphere alone. It was bouncing. Arsenal were ranked rotten. In fact, the only two players that actually gained any credibility were Smith Rowe and Kieran Tierney. The love of my life, Liverpool eased past Norwich, and as you said, it was great to see Moisey, Ali. West Ham, I don't know what I mean. They haven't made any significant signings, but they just seem to pop up with the results. The fight back against Newcastle to win it.
It's funny you're talking about Callum Davidson and what pressure they're under this season to try and go and replicate what they've done. But you look at what West Ham achieved last season and the budget they're on in comparison to the budget of those clubs round about them, and you think, can you sustain that and stay in that environment? But getting off to a solid start certainly helps.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a strange thing about footballers, Tam, you know, and fans' reaction to them. When they want to go and win trophies and win medals and win European Cups, you know, after even putting in a significant amount of time at Spurs, Harry Kane is being vilified now. You can see the narrative changing. It's becoming poisonous towards him.
Yeah, listen, I don't think you can blame him. He's gave great service to Tottenham. He scored a lot of goals there, but Tottenham are never going. They're not going to win anything. You know, he wants to go. Same with Jack Grealish when he left Villa. You want to go to the top teams. You know, I don't think it's even financial. He gets 150 grand a week at Spurs. He just wants to go and have a crack at winning the Champions League. You know, winning the Premiership. And at the end of your career, you know, you want to look back and go, you know, you want to have won something. And I think Harry Kane's got to go somewhere. He's got to go to Man City to try and win trophies. Same as Grealish has went, but I don't think anybody could blame him for wanting to go and improve his career, I think, at a top team. Yeah,
it's a strange the way the things have changed now. I can remember in 1977, Alison, just sobbing uncontrollably as Kenny Dalglish left Celtic. But I didn't hate him. I ended up going down to Liverpool to watch him. But the whole dynamic's changed now, isn't it?
To be fair, I think it's just how it's happened with Harry Kane. I appreciate what you're saying. I think that an opportunity to go to a club where you're going to be challenging for silverware and there's that option on the table. But I think it's how it's come to pass. I think once you start not turning up for training and not being available for selection for games, I think you do run the risk of souring a relationship that you do have. I think you have to be professional about it. I think you have to almost park it, however difficult it is. I think you have to almost put it to the back foot and let your agent and the club deal with it and sort it out and make it clear what you wish from it. But I think when you're being paid to do a job, then I think you get on with it until such time as you're no longer affiliated with that club. Yeah, well, Man United and Chelsea also looked good at the weekend. So I thought, Ruffy, I'd give you my predictions for how I think the whole league's going to finish. This is my predictions for the English Premier League. So I've got City winning it, Chelsea second, Man United third, Liverpool fourth, and then I've got Arsenal in ninth
because I just don't see where. In fact, I don't even think Arteta will see Christmas. But at the bottom three, I've got Brighton, Crystal Palace and Norwich City. Would you have any changes around that?
None at all. I think the top four is maybe Liverpool in front of Man United, but I think that'll be the four, and I agree with you, the bottom three will be the three that don't have the big players.
I don't think Brighton will get in.
No.
I like him. I think he's a terrific manager, Graham Potter. I think they'll be in a good result of the weekend. I don't think they'll get in, but I'd agree with Crystal Palace, Norwich. I'm not sure, but Palace for me was the one that I fancied to get in.
Yeah, who are the others then that you think, if it's not going to be Brighton?
I think that Burnley will struggle this season.
Yeah.
I think Burnley will struggle. I think Crystal Palace, I think Newcastle will struggle.
Yeah.
And I think your three teams that have come up, obviously two of them are off to a flyer. Norwich obviously lost to Liverpool, but I think Watford and Brentford, they've got a right good chance of staying up this year, I think. Yeah,
okay, it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. Just before we go, I want to get your thoughts, guys, on someone that depends on your generation, it depends on the type of players that you liked when you were a boy growing up. But this guy, I absolutely loved him, and Ruffy knows because we've been together for such a long time. Ruffy, he's in my World 11. He's always been in my World 11. I've raved about him forever and a day, and that's Gerd Muller, who sadly passed away at the weekend. Gabriel Antoniazzi has a wee look at Der Bomber's career.
Gerd Muller, one of the greatest strikers of all time, has died at the age of 75. Muller scored 547 goals in 594 games in 15 years at Bayern Munich. He helped them win 14 trophies, including 4 Bundesliga titles and 3 consecutive European Cups. For West Germany, he scored 68 times in 62 appearances, including 14 at the World Cup alone. He won the Golden Boot for netting 10 goals at the 1970 edition and also won the Ballon d'Or that year before winning the European Championship 2 years later, scoring twice in the final. De Bomber also scored the winning goal in the 1974 World Cup final, beating Johan Cruyff's iconic Dutch team. He held goal-scoring records that stood for over 40 years, only to be recently broken by the likes of Lionel Messi and Robert Lewandowski. He retired in 1982 and was described by Karl-Heinz Rummenigge as the Muhammad Ali of the penalty box. Today, the footballing world mourns Muller, and his goals will never be forgotten.
Well, Ruffy, if you look at all the goals that he scored, I think 98% of them were about 6-yard box, nothing further out than the 12 yards.
Yeah, if there was anything nicking about, defenders and goalkeepers knew that if it was there, he had that wee electric burst to get there and be in the right place at the right time. And not only that, at the right time in the right place in the big games, cup finals, World Cup games, and that's what the striker he was. And you've got somebody like that in your team, obviously if you've got other players running about you like Beckenbauer and Breitner and that, he's somebody handy to have up front, and I don't, we all talk about partner, maybe you know, we all talk about partnerships. I don't ever remember him having a partner. I don't remember like a 2 up front. I always remember him, just following his cell and doing all the holding up. I mean,
Uli Hoeneß as well. I mean, Bayern were just a sensational side. I mean, Beckenbauer, that classic, it wasn't even a sweeper. He'd just come out and play in the midfield and just imperious in the middle of the park, picking passes as well as scoring, Beckenbauer. But Muller was your classic penalty box. And of course, after the Dutch football, which dominated, then German football, he won 3 Champions Leagues. That's how good he was. He was fantastic as well. I just had him... It's just because of the madness of Messi and Ronaldo, I've had to drop Van Basten out of my all-time World 11, Ruffy, because those two are so good. I've got to get them in, and I've dropped Van Basten. Hullet's not even on the bench. I mean, when you've got to drop Van Basten, Ali, because of Messi and Ronaldo's antics, but Muller's in there because he chucked international football at 28, not because he was finished. I mean, he chucked it right after the World Cup in 1974, and the reason was, on a point of principle, he didn't play international football again because he didn't like the fact that when they were going on international games, if my memory serves me correct, the German FA were allowed to bring their wives, but the players weren't. So he thought, we're not having that, point of principle. Look at Ruffy. Look at Ruffy.
He was the complete opposite. He didn't let him bring his wife. I need to bring my wife, I'm retired.
I looked at his face and I thought, I don't even know why I put that line out. I mean, it's just the polar opposite of you. You'd be in the German FA in that one, but That's magnificent, Tam. No, point of principle. You can imagine how many goals he would have scored, Ali. I mean, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's a real barometer of someone's talent and the imprint that they left on the game, that subsequent generations know who you're talking about without ever having seen them play, that reputation alone is sufficient for them. I think it tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah, Fraser Hammond said, I'd have Cruyff as my top midfielder. Don't worry, Fraser. Cruyff's in my World 11 as well. In fact, you know what we should do? We should do a few programmes with our World 11. Pick the greatest 11. It would be incredible to see Ali's, yours from a generational point of view. I mean, a lot of people are mentioning the type of players, and Jonathan's just said, Ruffy, annoyed because there's no wives there. Jonathan, you're so wide of the mark, you would not believe it, by the way. But yeah, lots of people offering their thoughts on this. Hugh Scott says Peter Van Basten was one of the best strikers ever. His strike rate was unreal and he had to retire early. Yeah, I think it was his ankles that were shot by the time he had to chuck it, but nevertheless, Muller was absolutely frightening as a striker for Bayern Munich and West Germany, and greatly missed. I think the tributes coming in from Bayern Munich today and over the weekend just summed up how loved he was by that club, and in fact the enormity of what he contributed to Bayern Munich. I think most of the board have said that they would not be the club they are at the moment had it not been for the contribution of Gerd Muller, one of a great Bayern Munich side of the 70s. I think 74, 75 and 76, certainly the years where they were at their peak, and I can remember them playing for Bayern Munich in the European Cup final at Hampden. Ruffy, they played against, do you remember it?
What year was that?
76, I think it was, the third year they won the European Cup. They won 1-0.
Was it a French team?
Yes, it was. Oh, I'm happy with you now, Ruffy. Knowledge is the bomb. Well done.
Yeah,
well, you got there. You go. They're the young team in there, Ruffy.
Playing Green and White, Ali.
Help you out.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Listen, good stuff. Enjoyed the chat. Fantastic there about the wives. That'll live in the head, Tam. You just got him right away there. Anyway, Gerd Muller, I think from all the football family, he is a man who'll be greatly missed, but his contribution to football, well worthy of getting in the World 11. If you're a youngster or of a certain age, go and have a look at his stats to see how good he was in a golden age for football. Anyway, apart from that, thoroughly enjoyed the chat. Tam's new haircut has been the topic of discussion at the start. We will get the Bond villain picture out for Wednesday, Ruffy, to show you how he joined us. Tam actually joined us and got his photograph dressed as what can only be described as a Bond villain, Alison.
And then you put it up outside your office.
I know, we couldn't believe it, by the way, but I will send you the picture on Wednesday. It's just horrendous, Ali. But apart from anything else, thanks to Tam, thanks to Ruffy, thanks to Alison, and to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell and you'll get all the notifications as well. More and more prizes to be won. There's a strip that we'll be giving away from a Premiership club on tomorrow's show. Hopefully you can join us for that. Thanks for watching.